Kind of dark in here. Let me go turn the light on. That's a little bit better. I should probably get a little lamp or something, put it on the desk. Um, but if I stream in the daytime, 'cause right now it's 7 o'clock. I didn't know it was that late. It might be a little short stream, but probably go for about an hour and a half today. Yeah, but if I stream in the daytime when the sun's out, I don't really need a lamp. But I don't know what my schedule is going to look like coming up. But I figure, it's been a while since I have streamed, so try to stream like twice a week, but this week's just been busy with some other things. So here we are on Sunday, streaming again. So I don't even remember like what I streamed last time. What kind of do? But I have been working on stuff. I just haven't been streaming it. Um, Stuff for work and stuff for what do you call it? Recreation and I don't know. I'm just thinking about how to transition into what we're gonna do today. So, um, today we're going back to the PS1 graphics yet again, and that's because I still want to get out this blog post about how to do PS1 graphics in the browser. So last stream we made some little demos for things that happen on the PS1, like the fixed function pipeline that the PS1 has, which consists of like three demos, well, more than three things, but the three things that we did. We did the vertex wobbling. We made a little demonstration for that. We did color banding, or no, this is like color reduction. These are long words. Plus the dithering. And then we did a demo for that, which turned out pretty cool. That one's my favorite one out of the bunch. And then the third one that we did last stream was the affine texture mapping, which I think still looks pretty cool, even though the demo is pretty simple. Affine mapping. Usually when you talk about mapping, you're I mean in my mind mapping is always about textures. I mean, it's not always, but most of the time it's about textures. So affine mapping. But now I want to make a little scene that puts all these together, and that's what we're going to work on today. So what we'll do today is we'll get a little low poly mesh loaded. It's going to come from a GLTF file. We're going to put that in the scene. We're going to show it on the web page or in the browser or whatever. Once that's all done, like everything's ready to go, then we can start messing around with the shaders, like, because this is going to use the 3 web GPU stuff. You can tap into the node material, and the uses a node material, so that's where you would modify all the TSL and stuff. But one little step in this process, so when you load this GLTF file, this is just like loading JSON, pretty much. So GLTF. This is just a static file on the like just a little static asset that you load and you parse it, and then I don't know what happens behind the scenes, but it's like JSON in a way that you do not know what this is going to parse as. So JSON, if you ever mess around with JSON.parse, this return type here is any, and that's because, you know, it could be a variety of things. You can parse into a number, you can parse into an object, you can parse into an array. I think you can even, like, null is valid JSON, just the null value. So this is that's the reason why it's the return type here is any. It's because when you parse it, you don't know what you're gonna get back. But what we can do, and how that relates to GLTF, it's the same idea. When you load up your GLTF, it just gives you an object that is a group, I think, like a 3 group or something. We'll take a look at it. But one of these has, or this has a scene property, and that's an object 3D. And so you can traverse it, like 3JS provides you these functions and methods for going through a scene graph and stuff. But it can only guarantee that like children of this object and, you know, children of the children and so on, like the tree or the graph, it can only guarantee that they're of type object 3D. So anything that is like in the scene is an object 3D. But you don't know if it's a mesh, you don't know if it's, you know, something from add-ons, like you don't know if it's a camera, you don't even know if it's a scene. All these things inherit from object 3D. But what you can do is you can narrow that down, and that's where this little library that I made helps out with doing that. This library, you can kind of read about it in the README here, but this helps you narrow down types, like at runtime. And the way that it works, if we look at the generated, oh, I didn't commit it. But the way that it works is that it loops through everything that's an export of 3. Oh, I should make this 3 web GPU. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but some of these materials aren't going to be in web GPU, so maybe we'll just skip the library and we'll just implement these ourselves. Because this, I want to make a version of this that's web GPU. But the way that this works is that it generates a file. So this is like a node script, and it generates a file, it loops through all of the exports of 3 here. And then it tries to make a class out of this value here. So the name is like the name of the export, or like in this case it's the key of this object, and the value is, think about that, that could be like a class constructor, it could be a constant, it's just something that's exported from T. So T is like an object, that's how this works. But if it is something that you can construct and it has this is name property, we're gonna push this string here. So if we go to, what's this called? I don't know if it'll show up. Alright, let's go to the GitHub. So we can get to it from here. I'm not signed in. We'll go here, and then here, and here. Now this is on NPM currently, but I don't know how to get there. What's the easiest way to search for this package? It's like a pretty new package, so it may not be like indexed. Um, here's what I'll do. I'll find the link in the other tab. Oops. Packages. I don't need that. Okay, so let's come here and let's just paste that in. So, yeah, this is public. It still needs some work. I'm still kind of figuring out how to publish packages and stuff, and like automate a lot of stuff. But if you look at the generated code here, so this is just type guard functions, which guarantee that whatever you pass in here, this is just JavaScript at this point. So, you know, it checks that this would meet all the criteria for being an ambient light. If we go down for your more common one, like mesh here, you know, it checks that whatever you pass in is an object. It's not null because null is, if you do type of null, it will return object. Checks that is mesh is in the object and that the value of that is true. So that's how you would check for things in 3JS. This is all about narrowing types. But what we'll do today, we're not going to import this library because this is built for, you know, normal 3, which is using WebGL. So it doesn't contain all the like node materials. If you're familiar with WebGPU 3 stuff, the node materials are how you modify like the standard shader code and stuff, and that's where you would use TSL and stuff like that. But there's no node in here. So what I'll have to do probably off stream is make a version of this for WebGPU. But we'll do it. We really only need a couple of these, so maybe we'll copy and paste them from here into the source, into the project. Yeah, so the reason why we need that is because when we load this GLTF, and like I was saying about the JSON, we're going to need to modify properties of a mesh inside of this GLTF. So we're going to work with this car model. I'll load it up real quick. And then if we go, let me load up the model we're gonna work with today. It is here. Where is it? Here. 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 Okay, found it. So this I found on itch.io. And I don't know if I can find the link to that. I should probably put that in the chat. PS. Let's see. How do you go to assets? I don't want to browse games. I want to browse assets. Here we go. Assets. 3D. Low poly. Oh, I found it. Nice. So it is from this user. I'll just share the link in the chat. Yeah, so these are meant to look like PS1 graphics, and I thought, we probably should use a GLTF or a model or whatever that um, fits the aesthetic. Um, but this is kind of like, well, we only know that this is in Object 3D. We don't know anything about it until runtime. And in that regard, you have to kind of check, um, properties of this object. And this will be more clear once we actually get into code. It's kind of hard to explain without seeing the code, I think. But what we're going to need to do is replace uh, properties of this object. So in this object, there's a mesh. That's the car, and that mesh will have a material on it and a geometry. That's kind of what defines meshes in 3JS. And we need to modify the material because we need to add in the vertex wobbling, the affine texture mapping, and the color reduction. Which the color reduction we can just do as a post-processing effect. So we'll do that. That's pretty easy to do, but we need to grab a hold of these things and modify them. But 3JS won't be happy with this because we haven't narrowed down the type of this mesh. Maybe I should get into the code now because now it's starting to sound like code. But let me get this thing rolling. So we have a PS1 file. What do we call this? R. And I think what we'll do is we'll just steal this code. Oops. Let's go over to car. And make sure that I'm loading this on that page. It's in car. Yeah, so let's go back to the project. So it's just a copy of the Vertex Wobble demo. But if we see, look at this, it puts this DS store everywhere. If you use the file, the Finder app in Mac OS, car. No, I want to. Okay, there we go. So rather than doing this little demo, we need to actually load that mesh. So what we'll need to do is make a mesh loader. Well, a GLTF loader, rather. GLTF loader. And then we need to do this in an effect because this will try to be server rendered, but if we put it in effect, effects are never server rendered. They're just no ops. So we need to load this thing in an effect, and that's kind of like doing it on mount. So I'm assuming that you guys know about like lifecycle methods for, or like lifecycle hooks and stuff. But in like Svelte 5, there is a slight difference between on mount and effect, but I think effect will cover our like we're gonna use an effect. We don't really need to do any like thing with the DOM, so there's no point in doing on mount. In my opinion, like on mount is for doing things like, okay, the DOM is ready, now I can do things with my canvas or whatever. We're not gonna really do anything with the DOM. That's kind of handled already by this canvas thingy down below and other stuff in here. But in the effect is where we need to actually load this GLTF. So I don't want to do everything in this effect. I'm going to use a little thing called promise.with resolvers, which allows you to destructure the promise and the resolve and reject. So we get out the promise, we get out the resolve. I'm going to assume that we're never going to reject, which is probably not a good idea in like production code, but this isn't really that serious. So promise, yeah, let's just call it promise for now. And you have to type this here. It's going to give you back a GLTF, but I think we're importing key like that. Oh, GLTF might come from add-ons. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, here. So I usually like to do my type imports on a different line. Like that. Has already been declared. Where? Oh, no. It went away. So here, what we can do is we'll do GLTF loader.load async. The path to this thing, we can get a URL. Like Vite will give us a URL here if we do it like this. Let's just call this let's call it like, yeah, car GLTF URL. Maybe just car URL. This will be in assets GLTFs, or let's see. What do I call this? Yeah, GLTFs car. So GLB is just a binary format for GLTF. It's smaller in size and, you know, meant for computers to read and stuff. So that'll work out fine. But let's load the car GLTF. Or, sorry, from the car URL. And this will give us back a promise that will resolve with the GLTF. So if we look here. Oh. Let's just do it like this for now. You can see that that's typed as GLTF, not only because we typed it here, but also because the load async returns GLTF here. Promise of GLTF. But we can just immediately resolve this thing. So this will resolve this promise here, and now we have access to this promise outside of the effect. So what we can do is, like, we'll call this like load GLTF, or load car, I guess. We can do that then, and let's just log it. Let's make sure that, you know, we loaded it properly. Oh, geez. Let's see, console. Oh, we need Draco loader. So I'm not gonna go into what a Draco is because I don't really know myself. But I think it's a compression algorithm or something for GLTF files. But I have a helper for this too. So at the top we can do set Draco. I think we actually just pass in. I think this thing just takes in the loader. And that should be good. And then here's what we got back from loading. And the scene here is a group, like I mentioned. But if we traverse this scene, and traversing is just going through the children of the children of the children and doing something. We know here that it's a mesh, but if we traverse this thing here, right here, and we do o.scene, we know it has a scene, but we do traverse. Here, all it knows is that it's an object 3D. So here's where we got to do our narrowing, because we need to pull out this mesh here. And there's actually helper function for this, or method rather, we can do scene dot get, or I misspelled scene. Scene dot get object by name, and then the name, if we go here to mesh or children, let's see, mesh. The name here is car 2. So the reason why it's 2 is because this was the second car in that asset pack. But we can get it by car 2, and maybe we should put this in a variable. And then get object by name may return undefined. I don't like using undefined, so I usually try to use null, which to me signals that something is missing. I think undefined you shouldn't really touch yourself. You should leave that to like the JavaScript runtime and stuff. So that way you know that, like, well, for multiple reasons, but I think the main reason is that if you see a null somewhere, like at runtime, then you know it was probably your doing. If you see undefined and you're using undefined and stuff, you don't know if that undefined was because, you know, is that from your code, or is that from library code, or is that from like just, you know, normal JavaScript code or something, like, you know, using something like array.find. Which I think can return undefined. Or how do you do this? I might have to... Yeah. But I just like to use null here. So if we don't find it, which, you know, that would mean that this returned undefined, we'll return null instead. And then we can check if car is null. We'll just return. We might throw an error. Car mesh, or let's do this. With name, mesh name was not found. Should we throw an error, or should we just continue? Because if I throw an error, I'm gonna have to catch it somewhere. So maybe we'll just continue. We'll just return this, and we'll call this get car. And we don't need to return. We can just put this on one line. Okay. Oh, I should probably change this mesh name. So here, it will return a promise with either .object or null. And now, when this resolves, we can... let's take a look at that car. So let's do get car.then .log and see what that looks like. So there's the mesh. And the mesh, you know, all meshes have a geometry and a material right here. But we don't know that this is a mesh. So if we take the object, and we'll just say if O is null, then we'll just return it. We'll just, you know, pass that along. We won't do anything with it. But if it's not null, that means that it is an object 3D, not a mesh at this point. It is really a mesh, but we don't know that. So this is where we have to do our type narrowing. And the way that you typically do that in Three.js is like this. If it is a mesh, it will have an isMesh property that is equal to true. But this isn't, two things. It's not foolproof, and you can tell that TypeScript does not like this, and that's because isMesh is not on Object 3D. But we know it is if we look here. You can see isMesh sorry, that's hard to say. isMesh is true right here. So that's where this library that I showed off would come in handy is you could pass O into is mesh here. And that's doing that check for you, and it's a type guard. If you look at the actual declaration file, here, you can see that it is telling you that if this returns true, then O is of type mesh. But like I said, this is built for like 3's normal export. 3 has a web GPU export, which this project is using web GPU. So I want to we'll just inline that check. We won't import this library or anything, we'll just inline that check. So if, and let's actually just copy and paste it. It lives in the source code. Well, I might have put it in the README. Yeah, it's this thing here. So what it means to be a mesh, is it not like, oh, t.mesh. What it means to be a mesh is that must be an object, so whatever, you could pass it anything here, but we don't know what it is, and we're gonna narrow its type. It must be an object, so at runtime we can do that by type of O is equal to object. Unfortunately, if you do type of null in the console, this returns object, and there's probably a historic reason why. There's probably something you can read about to find out why that is the case. I don't know myself, but that's something you need to check for. So if it is an object and it's not null, we're going to check if it has a mesh property, is mesh, rather. Which, you know, is this check here. Now we know that there is a property on O that is mesh, but we don't know its type. So we can check that here. We know that this will succeed, but it's unknown, and then we can, you know, check to see if that is exactly true. You wouldn't do this here, because, you know, if you were to convert, like, the value of 1 to a Boolean, and you can do that, like, in an if context, or an if expression. You can see that it printed hello, and that's because if it's not 0 here, it'll get, well, whatever is in the expression here will ultimately get converted into a Boolean, and if you do like Boolean of anything that's not 0, or like falsy, 0 is falsy, empty string is falsy, null is falsy, but 1 and, you know, a string with characters in it is true. You don't want that. You want to check exactly that it's equal to true. So we could probably move this into the module, and then we can use it here. We'll say if is mesh O, then we know in this branch that O is a mesh. So we narrowed it down to that, which is good. And getting the car, after we do that, we should probably immediately add it to the scene. I'll call this add car. So that's easy, you just do scene.add. This is the GLTF. Probably should call this get car GLTF. Oh no, this is the actual car, right? So not get car, but we'll do GLTF loader dot, no, not that. We'll do Load car, that's what I want. Dot then. And this will be DLTF. We're just gonna add the entire scene. We don't have a scene. Let's create a scene. T.scene. So let's not do this. Let's get rid of that. We can get rid of this too. And we'll fit the camera to that object. Well, let's move this down here. We'll do this in a second. So let me comment it out for now. But we don't need a pane, so we'll get rid of this stuff. I'm just gonna do it like that. Here we don't have mesh, but we will render. And we don't use time, so let's get rid of that. And here, rather than the mesh, we're rendering the scene. Okay, and you can see that the car is there, but it's a standard material, so we need to add lights to the scene. But let's put the camera in place, so when we load the car, and this should be actually car now, because I want to call this load car, GLTF. Because it's not the car, it's the actual GLTF, which has like a scene and cameras and all this other metadata about it. When we get the car, that's where we need to do the fitting. So this is an object 3D, which means we can pass it along here. Oh, but it could be null, so if it is null, just return. Return, or let's just like, yeah, we'll just return null. Well, we don't have to do that either, we could just do this. Yeah, so there's our car, but it has lit materials. So we need to add a light in the scene. We could probably just add an environment, but to keep it like really part of, well, I kind of want to modify the material anyway. So what we need to do instead is extract the texture that this thing uses and make a basic mesh material that can accept that texture, and basic mesh material is not lit. So that's what we'll do. Instead of putting a light in the scene, we will just swap out, we'll just swap out the material to something that doesn't require light. So here we go, we know that it's a mesh here. If you get the texture out of this, you probably want to get the material first. So do I want to do that with a promise, or... Now we know that it has a material property here. But we don't know what type this is either. All we know that it's a material. Yeah, you know that it's either a T-dot material of this, or it is this thing here, or it's this thing up here. But we can narrow this down too. I think how I want to do this. Probably just, well, all we need to do is get the texture and then replace the material. So let's just write the code that we want and then we'll fix it later. So e.material.map. This doesn't know that this is a map. If you look at the error, it does not exist on this or that. And that's because material can actually be an array. So what we can do is say if is array. We know that this is not true, but this is like being very thorough about it. If what we pass in here is an array, then in this branch, we should narrow it down to, you know, material, the array case. But what we can do here is, you know, this thing should always have a material, and we're just gonna pull the first material. So let's make a material and make this a ternary, and we'll just steal this. So if it's an array, we'll just get that. If it's not, then we'll turn it into an array. Dang it. Like this. So this is now an array, and then we just need to get the first element off of it. So that would be at 0. And then probably inline this first. But I have the TypeScript setting that there's no unchecked index access. So doing first here, you know, in a normal, I don't know if I want to explain this, but yeah, you should always check that, you know, accessing via like brackets, which arrays do, and destructuring will do for arrays, because you're accessing, you know, the first element. This is essentially doing this. I mean. What if your array is empty, and somehow it became empty? Well, doing this will return undefined, so you need to check for that. We know that it's not undefined here. We know that there's something, at least one thing in the array here, on the on this side of the ternary, but we don't know that here. So do I want to just call this undefined? Like, I also need to verify that it has a map property. So actually we might be able to do this all in one check. Let's make a little type here. And we'll extend from material, or t.material, and map is a t.texture. But that could not be there. Or I think it's always there for materials. Let me check. I don't know if this is always there. Docs. Because material is like a base class. Yeah, it's like an abstract class. You're supposed to extend from it. So if you look for .map, yeah, there's nothing. So for materials that are like basic mesh material and, you know, Lambert material and Phong material and standard material, map can be a null value. So we actually might take this from mesh basic material. We'll do that at map. We can take a look at this, or let's take a look at the map type. So material with map at map. Yeah, it's either texture. So left side of the bar here, it's either texture or it is null. So we could probably use that. We can put that in a type as well. Okay, so now we need to make a check for this. So is material is going to be the same as above here, just kind of swapped out with is material. Because the reason why we're doing this is because this could be undefined. Oh, let me just copy this. Oh, let's do it like this. So yeah, if it is a mesh, yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think how I want to do this. Get car here. Yeah, okay, I have a good idea. So what we'll do here is we'll say is mesh here. We'll return oh. Otherwise we'll just return null. And then what's it saying? Maybe this. So get car should now return GLTF promise. Oh, I need to return O dot. Yeah, I need to put this in a variable. Mesh equals this. And return mesh. So that should give us, yeah, p.mesh. Okay, so that gets, let's call this get car mesh. That's correct. And then down here we'll say get texture, or let's call it map. Get map. Get map. That is going to be get car mesh. Dot then mesh. We'll do mesh dot material. So if this has a map, how would you check for that? With this type here, so maybe we can do another type guard? I can't remember how I did this before. Let's do this at least. Return null. We know that it's the type like this. This is actually correct, but it's kind of a mess right now, but did I do that first thing? I can't remember. Let me do that. We'll do... Let's clean this up. Let's see, what isn't it like? Get map is not used. Meshes might be null. Okay, that covers that type. Or that error. That's what I want to do, so let's see what the error is. Does not exist on type, and that might be because it's an array. Yeah, there's still array types in here. Okay. I guess we do have to like just get the first one. So let's see, this is, make this a partial type. So now map doesn't have to be there. Alright, let's do that. I don't like it, but I think it's better than nothing. So let's see, mesh.material. We'll do array dot is array. This, if that's true, we'll just return material as is. Otherwise, we need to put it into an array. And I don't have any undefined here, which is good, I guess. It knows that it's a material, that's cool. I'm gonna make a helper function for this. Const as map. I don't know, like you can't return, I guess you could call this isMap. And then you would pass in, yeah, because if I just do first.map here, it doesn't exist on that type. So you can either cast it to material with map. I don't remember how to do that. So yeah, material with map array. Dang it. Come on. How do I do this? Can't remember how to ban. There, that's good. Okay, so if you do material.map now, oh, that's a array type. We actually need to get the first value. Can I do that? Is that valid? Yeah, it could be undefined, that's true. So we can do first dot, or we can do first question mark map. That's what we want to return, or null. Now let's check this type. Okay, that's correct. So, you know, if everything is null, like we can't find what we're looking for, then we're just gonna keep passing null down the line. And I feel like this could be written more succinctly, but oh well. So down here, if you do get map, this is where we need to create the simplified or like a more simple material. And I'm just going to use a mesh basic material for this. So we'll call it create material. And all this material really needs to do is use that texture. And that will be where it gets its color value. So we haven't even gotten into like the PS1 stuff yet. This is all just kind of like data manipulation, or more like, you know, normally you would just do this in like Blender or something. You know, swapping out materials programmatically is totally possible, but if your like model never needs to do that, you know, you just bake it into your model. That would be much more efficient and, you know, less error prone and stuff like that. But here we'll do get map, then now if you take a look at map here, it could be null. But we'll return a new t.mesh basic. And if it is null, that's totally fine. Because here it is allowed to be null. Let's call this, or actually we can pass it in like here. And you can tell that there's no error even though this could be null. So if the map's not there, it will just default to a white texture. And, you know, the actual like color output for this thing is your color here. I don't know if it's multiplied with a sample of the texture map or if it's added, but it's a combination of these two properties. So color is always there and it defaults to white. If map is null here, then it will just pick up the white color instead. So I guess it would be multiplied, because multiplying with, you know, white and RGB is just 1, 1, 1, right? If you do white and you do that like into RGB, that's the same as 1, 1, 1, and then full opacity. And then you take that and you multiply it with, you know, your sample, a sample from your texture. And again, we can just do this. So after we create the material, this will return a material, or it's a promise of a material at least. That's where we need to apply it to the mesh. And then, when did we clean this all up? Well, I have this helper function for this, so on cleanup. We should probably wait for this thing to be resolved. Well, we'll probably do cleanup at the very end. But once we create the material, and this actually needs to wait for two things. It needs to wait for the car, and it needs to wait for the material creation. So we can wrap this in a promise.all, create material, and get car mesh. Once those resolve, this will return the material and the car. Car could be null, that's true. So if car is null, then we'll just return car. We'll just return null again. I wonder what happens if I don't wrap this. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, we'll just return car. There's nothing to do. I don't know if we'll return anything from this, but yeah, maybe we'll just return. because this is going to be set car material. Here we need to say car.material equals material, but we don't want to leave that material just floating. Like now there's like a dangling, you know, we should probably do like something like this. We'll do car.material, so this is this thing that we need to dispose of because we're not going to use it. But before we do that, we'll set the car's material. And then it thinks that this could be an array, so we didn't narrow the type here. But we can say, you know, we could do the same thing we do here. We should probably do that. I'm wondering if we can, wherever we do the swap, I kind of want that to be separate from the actual creation of these things. Like we could do we could do a lot of this all in the same .then, but I like to separate the creation of some resource from the usage of that resource. But we need to handle the case where this could be an array, and I think, you know, just to get it out of the way, we'll just do for and you can tell that there will be some duplicated code here, but there might be room for drying it up a little bit. So if that's true, then we'll just return it. Otherwise, we'll put it into an array. Oh yeah. So we could do this. Now we have a handle of the last material. Oh, we need to do car.material here. Yep. So for material of last material, we're just going to dispose of it, because we set it to a new one here. But disposing of it, that's freeing up the GPU resources. We should make sure to do that. We'd have to do that explicitly. Maybe one day we'll get the like symbol.dispose and stuff, which will allow you to do like cleanup when you leave scope, you know, kind of like defer in other languages. I think we're a little bit a ways from that, even though I think TypeScript might support it. I don't know. There might be like a polyfill for it or something. Okay, so that's setting the car's material. Did that. And then we don't need to return this. Okay. So it's still white, which is a sign that the map isn't being applied. So let's log out the map, see what it is. Check the map property. Yeah, map is null here. Okay, so let's go back up the chain. Did I save it? Where is this being? Why is this being logged? I guess it's returning null there. Let's see. This is the classic console.logging stuff. Oh, this could be an array. Yeah. So we can't do this. We have to do... let's see, what's the problem here? Yeah, we have to check that we got a mesh at least, so... Okay, there it is. And you could tell that this is different because we don't even have a light in the scene, but even though we see the texture colors coming through. That was a lot of work to get that to come through, but now I could start messing around with the materials of this thing. And what you need to do in order to do that is change this into a node material. So same output, but now we have access to these node properties. So I can set the color node, for example, to be like red. Or yeah, that'll be... See, now it's all red. Where's the music? But, oops. So, let's do the, we're gonna need to do the vertex wobbling and the affine texture mapping. So we could probably just steal that from the examples. Here. There is a vertex node. And let's not mess with that for now. This comes from, I need to fix some errors first before we can import things. So the vertex shader here will only, well, it's the vertex node will run in the vertex shader. So using the clip like this, oh, we don't need to select. We need to just, this will be unconditionally applied. Oh, yeah, let's just do that unconditionally for now, and then we can add controls for it later. Oh, and then the other thing I want to do is center this thing's geometry, because you can see, like, if I refresh the page, it may look like we're, you know, looking at the center of this, but as soon as I start, like, moving the camera around, you can see how it, like, jumps like that. So the easiest way to fix that is to center the geometry, which we can do at the, well, we can do, like, get car, mesh. Oh, this is dot then. Mesh dot geometry dot center. You can tell that it's a little bit lower. Oh crap, that didn't work. Oh yeah, mesh could be undefined. Yeah, that didn't work. It might be because we need to set the target of the... When this orbit controls gets created, it pulls the target from the... Well, let's see. I know what to do here. It is... I think it's that. Or maybe it's copy. Yeah, I don't like that jump. Why is that doing that? Maybe we got, oh, I think I know. I think we have to do car dot geometry dot center, and we need to do that here. So let's do equals null. We'll return car. There we go. So when it's fitting the camera or whatever, it's not getting the the geometry itself isn't centered around 0, 0, 0, but this fit to camera function or fit camera to object function assumes that it is, I think, but I don't remember. And probably don't have to add any of that fudge, even though I love fudge. Do I love fudge? I don't know, but okay, so let's make sure that this thing is actually wobbling. Maybe I should have left in our controls, but we can add them back. That class is relative. Here we need to put this absolute, top 2, right 2. Do I still have the pane? No, I don't. Or do I? Not using that. Let's get rid of it. These are imports from before. Yeah, I still have pain, okay. I always have pain. I'm just kidding. That's stupid. Anyway, title, controls. They are actually going to be uniforms, but we'll just call them controls. And then what do we... I kind of want to get rid of this attachment, but... because there could be asynchronous stuff happening in this attachment, and this thing doesn't handle async very well. But here we get the pane out. You know, this function here assumes that it's, well, it's a synchronous function. It's a space synchronous function. Add a binding for wobble enable. We don't have yet, but that will have a value property. And let's give it a name. So you do that with label. Wobble enable. And I always get my parentheses wrong. Let's make this first. So uniform, which comes from TSL, but I can get the import in a second. I guess. Okay, so wobble is, well, we're not using it. Let's use it here. So select. Otherwise, we will select quit. Two. I'm coding too much today. Okay, so wobble is enabled. Is there any way to tell? Not really. Maybe as you slowly rotate this thing, you can kind of see it snapping. Let's turn up the factor a little bit. Let's put the background white. It might be easier to see because the car is dark in color. Let's put the background to white. So where is our scene? This needs to be a new color. Now, if you want to be like, you know, this also has a node. And you can use the color thing here, like the color node and all this, but you don't have to. Oh, I need to import color. Or no, I just need to give it the namespace. Okay, so with wobble enabled, and then without wobble enabled. So if we rotate the camera every frame, maybe it will be more clear. You do that with orbit.update, and then where you create the orbit, you would do auto rotate equals true. So there you go. And then if I turn off the wobble enabled, it should be a lot smoother. You know, if we bump this up to 80. Okay, let's stop the orbit for now. Or the update. The auto, what do you call it? The auto rotate. Let me turn this and then zoom in a little bit. And make sure that we're doing no anti-aliasing, that's correct. So I wish this was like a more pronounced effect. Let's go to like a really, really low resolution. You could see there, like, it has more, almost more detail. Like, this should get chopped off. I'm expecting this to get chopped off if we turn on the wobble enabled. Or I guess that would get filled in. Let's go to like 100 here. Yeah, it's just so hard to tell. I mean, it kind of is easier to tell at really low. Look how pixelated that is. So that's a more, this is a more accurate depiction. If you enable the vertex wobbling, like it should be a little bit less detailed. Maybe not less detailed, but you know, you're snapping to the vertex like integer positions. What time is it? 1:30. Okay, we're gonna add in the affine texture mapping, and then I think we'll be done for now. This example won't be complete, but it'll be a good place to stop the stream. So you do that with the color node, which you can get here. And we can pass in a texture. But here it's not allowed to be null. So I think we can actually get rid of, we can use that. Yeah, if we pull up the code for doing the actual mapping. I know that this will need to be no, we'll leave it like that. So the problem here is that this thing, you don't have to pass anything in here, but we're saying that map is null. So do I want to let map be undefined? And the way that you would do that is like this. But you can't pass strictly undefined, okay, let's see. You know, I don't like doing this. Why can maps still be null here? What's the problem with that? Oh, that's true, because up here, this can be null. I mean, do I want to do it like that though? Yeah, look how weird that looks. That's not right. I think, yeah, I have an idea. So let's take this, put it out here. We'll say const map equals this, and in here we'll say set map. What we'll do here is if this is we can do texture.value equals first.map, but we need to make sure that map is defined. So we could do a texture test here. And then this would be is texture. Like that. Then down here. If is texture first, then we'll do this. Oh, it should be first.map. Oh, what did I call it? Map.value? Yeah, there we go. So what's, oh, this needs a new name. Okay, let's call this color node. No, this needs to be map because we're gonna do things with the color node. Let's call it text. Can't call it texture because this thing is not namespaced. Which we could namespace it. You know, if I do this. Yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, this needs to be TSL. Oh, and then if we do that, then we don't have to do this inside of a dot then. Oh geez. Where is it? Oh, we need to move that up. Let's see. What did I break here? Oh. Okay, what else? Yeah, so we have the material ready to go, so we don't have to do this. Okay. Create material, where is that? Why is it still, oh, there we go, I didn't save it. What was I doing? Oh yeah, that was to that was to use this color node thing. So let's pull up that example. I do need to set the min filter and the max filter, mag filter, and the mip maps. Ugh. Well, I could do that here. So we'll do. I'm just gonna destructure this. I can't do that. You're right, I can't do that. Dang it. Okay, first dot map. Okay, let's put this behind. Like that. Then you first that map. Why is that? Shouldn't this be? No, I have this question mark here. I don't know, I guess it's fine. Yeah, so we'll do that, but we'll take the first dot map and we'll do dot min filter, mag filter, and it's equal to t dot nearest. And then no mip maps. And you can tell that this here is not like blurry anymore. You see how it like blurs there? It's because this is like has this filter on it. I don't remember what the defaults are, but we want nearest filter so it looks blocky. Okay, now what? Now we take this and we'll just steal that. So that's our UV. Oh yeah, we just passed it right along to texture, but texture here, right, so take this. Oh, but I can't. Oh, this is weird because I need to pass UV in here. I would have to undo a lot of work for that to go through. Because I could return this color node from here. Yeah, we'll pass map here. And then just to make sure this is working. Yeah, I just undid all that code. Now I'm gonna put it back. Create color node. Then we have a color node here. Now we need to do that. Promise. Then mesh and create material r material. Oh, this is promise to all. What? Oh. Okay, so the reason why I did that is so that I can just return this texture here, and I can just give it its correct UVs from the get-go. Clip we'll put up here. Oh, and then this is going to be uniform. So we'll turn it on by default. This comes from TSL. TSL. Okay, are the textures or yeah, you can tell, like, look at the windows here. You can tell that it's definitely affine mapped or whatever. So let's put a control on that. Oh, wrong file, but I did want that. Okay, so if that works, and when I select this, yeah, so definitely have the, like, affine mapping going on. Oh my gosh, it's very, is that right? It is very, very intense. I don't know, that seems wrong. That seems like it's a little too, crazy. Let's look at the wireframe. Maybe this is just like one big triangle, or like one big quad or something. Where's the material? Right here. Yeah, I think it is. Hard to tell because we get all the other stuff blocking it. But this is like just two triangles. You got two triangles on the top too. I wonder why they didn't just convert that into one triangle. See, that looks wrong, doesn't it? That looks like something's not right. I don't think that's right. How did I lose my generate bitmaps? Okay, yeah, something is wrong here. Where's our color node? Color node, where are you? Right here. Oh. Okay, let's break this up a little bit. Const get material equals this part. Material. Material. Okay, what does this give us? Material. But I don't want the undefined. Okay. And we can, yeah, this is about the map. So let's, let's do that. We'll call this part of it. I don't know what to call this. This is just like setting properties of the material map. I'm gonna leave it in there for now. Yeah, let's compare these two. Min filter, mag filter, yes. No mip maps, yes. Let me take the texture, select affine, vertex TSL, UV, multiply by the clip. Otherwise, just the UV. The clip lives right here. Lives right here. Put this at the top. I don't know. Let's see. We go to this playground. Let's go with. So this is a little demo for the texture mapping. But then when I get really close, I guess it does kind of really look stretched out. I mean, I could put a texture on here to be like sure about it. Yeah, like right there, it's like super stretched out. And then if I give this plane the geometry, like a lot of segments, like 100, shouldn't see it as much. Like we barely see it at all. This is really just two triangles. So that's why you see that like stretch kind of happen along this like seam, if you will. I don't know. Seems like something's off. But from a distance, it looks okay. Looks like it's working fine. Where is this? This is here. Okay, let's rotate the camera. I mean the controls. And then let's put that on a in the pane as well. So we'll do add binding here, and then it'll be the controls properties auto rotate. The label is auto rotate. What? Oh yeah, it's orbit, not controls. So let's put this. I like to put that first, and then let's make a folder for the uniforms. And then we'll add these to the uniform folder. Uniforms folder. Now we can, in the loop, we can check if auto rotate is true. Then I can turn it off. Yeah, that's good. Oh, my style is in the wrong spot. Do I have time to add the color thing? Yeah, I mean, let's do that real quick. That'll be the very last thing. So, in order to do that, you need a render pipeline. That's a new t.render pipeline. This one's the easiest one to add. Fix your renderer. And here we want to make sure we dispose of it. We aren't disposing of the other things, but I'll do that off stream. Probably. Like I always do, I clean up the code a lot. So render, oops. What happened here? Yeah, renderer.render. Oh no, it's render pipeline dot render? What's the function name? Okay, why is it broken? Render pipeline dot render. Right? Yes. Okay. So if your pipeline has nothing, like the output is defaults to blue, we need to set its output. And this will be the pass of the TSL, pass of the scene with wherever the camera currently is. Output node? I don't remember the name of this. Okay, so that's the same. Now if you want to get the texture from this, which we'll need, you can do that too. So you call .get texture. This is going to be your output. Okay, so now you have your texture, so down here. Well, let's do it right here. We'll call this output node, and let's steal this from the colors. All this we can copy. We don't want to call it. Okay, here, just to get it working, I'm going to not select whether you can turn on or off the dithering. Yeah, let's make one for this. Where is it? Right here. Texture node. Nope. That's good. This is TSL. TSL here. Okay, this I expect to break. Well, yeah, we'll leave it like that. We don't have this dither enabled. get that. Okay, now what? We don't have this dither function, so let's steal that. That's here. Nice. No, we're not using it. Let's just, yeah, that's expected. So we take the output node over here. Where is it? Right here? We just call that. I kind of want to inline it because this is a function node, so you have to call it like this. Feels kind of weird. So let's inline it. Let's go back up here. Where is it? It's right here. Crap. You know, I could inline this. Oops. Down below, right here. Yeah, we'll just put that there. Okay, then we call it. Oops. Why does it jump around so much? Jeez. Okay, am I good? Yeah, this should error out. I know that this will error. And that has to do with the way that this function works. This thing only returns t.node, even though it should be really like float. Because this here returns t.node. So can't do anything about that. I'm gonna have to go in and make sure all these are working correctly. What was this? This was... And then the other one was the dithering. But I'm only going to show dithering enabled if quantization enabled is true. Oh crap, this is the wrong file again, right? No, it isn't. This is right. Okay, let's give these proper names. Quantization. And these are booleans, so, you know, whether they're enabled or not is kind of implied because they're booleans. They're either on or off. Right? Okay, so we need to hide or show this dithering thing when it's quantized. Only show the dithering thing. It's got the wrong name, but I'll change that in a second. So below here, below all this. Yeah, so much stuff there. Where was it? Yeah, it definitely needs some cleanup. I'll do that probably sometime tomorrow. That means I need to save this. Do I? Yeah, I better save it. I need to save this too. Dither binding, dither binding. Okay, so if I select this, yeah, that only, yeah, and it turns off the dither. Oh no, it turns off the quantization, which also turns off the dither. But I don't know if this dither is correct. I don't know if I can figure out a way to test if that's. I mean, I could put a gradient on the background. And I can just steal this one. But I have to run it inside of an effect. You know why? Because it uses an off-screen canvas. Oops. What was this? Car/app. Yeah. So when we do this like initialize effect here, okay, that made our app, and then we do scene dot background equals map. Oops. Don't do that anymore. Okay, so let's turn off the dither. Yeah, there's the color banding, so it should be working. I just don't like it right here, like it looks wrong on the actual model. No, I don't know, I'll play around with it. And I'll clean this up. This is a pretty big file at this point. Yeah, 263 lines, but it's doing a lot inside of this script tag. So anyway, if this is right, I don't know though, you know? Should be right. This doesn't feel right. I think I feel that way about most things. Okay, I'm going to end the stream there. Let's make this big. I mean, it still looks cool. Just don't know if it's 100% accurate to what the PlayStation was doing. Yeah. Anyway, I think next stream will probably be Tuesday. I'm not sure what I'm gonna stream though. I have to come up with something. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we're gonna do. There's still some work left to do. I gotta write this article, for example, but I don't know. That doesn't really sound like an interesting stream. But maybe people want to watch that. Maybe it'll just be like a just chatting kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, you could stream anything. Just whether it's entertaining or not is the question. So, yep. Hope everybody has a good week. Tomorrow's Monday, so go back to work. I mean, I've been at work today and yesterday, and yeah, but anyway, I will see you guys next time. I'm tired, I can tell, so I'm gonna go to bed. Probably eat a bowl of cereal and then go to bed. I'll see you guys later. Take care.